Dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Swiss Sustainable Finance, I warmly welcome you to our first full-day conference. My name is Sabine Döbeli. I'm the CEO of Swiss Sustainable Finance. We are very happy that the topic, Inspiring Investment Partnerships to Achieve Global Goals, has sparked such great interest, and we've had well over 200 registrations for today, so the room will be more or less full. We're very happy about this. I would like to give a special welcome to our guests from abroad, some of which have traveled quite far to get here. I will guide you through today's conference, and I will start with some general remarks and a few information. Please help us by sharing your insights on the role of partnerships by using Twitter. Use the hashtag #InvestInPartnerships as indicated on the first page of the program. You do have access to Wi-Fi in here. It's also described on the program. You do not need a password, but you need to go through a registration process with your mobile. You might have seen that we have quite a rich program today, so it might be a challenge to keep to our schedule. We aim to give you enough time for networking, but please try and help the moderators to stick to the schedule and return to the different sessions on time. We will actually record all the sessions in this room here in the auditorium, and the recordings will be placed on our website later on. Now, last but not least, I would like to thank our sponsors, Alpha Mundi, Blue Orchard, InRate, Responsibility and Symbiotics for making this conference possible with their support. So, I now have the pleasure to introduce the first two speakers. The first welcome note will come from Jean-Daniel Gerber, President of Swiss Sustainable Finance. Jean-Daniel held various influential positions for the Swiss Confederation, such as Executive Director for the World Bank at the World Bank Group, Director of the Federal Office for Migration, and in his last professional role, he was the State Secretary and Director of the State Secretariat of Economic Affairs. Currently, he holds various board positions, and we're very happy that he is our president. Right after him, Ambassador Raymond Fuller will give the second welcome note. He is Head of Economic Cooperation and Development Division at SECO, SECO being one of our founding network partners. Previously, Ambassador Fuller held various positions for the Swiss Confederation, for multilateral organizations and the private sector, both abroad and in Switzerland. But let me now give the floor to Jean-Daniel Gerber for his welcome note. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. And Sabine, first of you, I'd like to thank you for having organized this meeting with your collaborators. And as a matter of fact, already the attendance shows that there is a need for such conferences. And not only the need, but in finance you have effectively to partnership. And therefore that's very welcome. I'm also glad about that success. Now, Sabine, you have said that everything is recorded, everything which has to be said, I understand, then has to be non-confidential. That changes, of course, dramatically my speech, because I've spoken out everything which is confidential. I wanted to tell you how the share market, the equity market is going to develop worldwide, European and in Switzerland in this year. And this is an absolute truth. I wanted to tell you who is going to succeed our Minister Doris Leuthard. But anyway, you know, then I have not to deal about this kind of issues, but I have really to stick to the main subject of our meeting. Why did we choose partnership as slogan, as the core element of our conference? Well, obviously, Swiss Sustainable Finance is built on partnership, which is why we know about the importance of teaming up with the right partners at the right place to achieve goals. Let me briefly introduce Swiss Sustainable Finance. It's a very young association. It's not almost not as old as I am. It has been founded in 2014 with the objective of making Switzerland not the leading, we are not, we don't want to exaggerate, but a leading center in sustainable finance. To achieve this goal, we inform about sustainable finance, we support education in this field, and we catalyze further market growth. In these activities, we can count on the support of about 100 members. Those who are not yet a member here, please join. 100 members and network partners ranging from banks, asset managers, institutional asset owners, service providers, all the way to university, other associations, and last but not least, public sector. As for the later, SECO is one of them, and it's a great pleasure that Ambassador Raymond Fuller will tell us more about the reason they have supported Swiss sustainable finance right from the beginning. What is that unit? What is that unites us and the members, the partners? They all see sustainable finance as a major lever to make our world more livable. Let me give you a few examples of how we cooperate with our members and partners to work on the overarching goal. In 2016, we prepared an encompassing handbook on sustainable investments for institutional asset owners. I have one small regret. We have a lot of asset managers, we have think tanks, but we have not among our membership enough yet asset owners. So that's also why we published that book. And over 30 authors from our members' space, but also outside member space, contributed to this important reference tool. It is thanks to that, to their broad knowledge and know-how from all these different members, that we managed to prepare such a comprehensive compendium. And as a matter of fact, this compendium has shown so much interest that we are now proud that CFA Research Foundation teamed up with us to publish the book in English. We'll soon communicate and launch the English version of the book. A second example is a first market study on Swiss investment for development. In partnership with the University of Zurich and Symbiotics, we provided market data on such investments while illustrating forms of partnerships through different case studies. The study revealed the high importance that Swiss asset managers have in this segment. Did you know that almost 1/3 of global investments for development are managed here in Switzerland? The third example is this conference, the idea of which was developed by Swiss Sustainable Finance Work Group Investment for Development. Our members saw it as a great opportunity to showcase successful partnership models and discuss how to further scale them up. Now, a small introduction to the conference. The topic of our conference builds on the conviction that financial services are a crucial lever to achieve the SDGs. Having worked for the government in different eras for most of my career, I see the important role of public sector activities. They are, to a certain extent, prerequisite for many basic services, let alone for humanitarian aid. But the SDGs go well beyond what the governments of this world can prove. Creating jobs is core for the achievement of many global goals. If there is a job, there is normally enough food, you can buy it. There is enough health provider, you can pay for it. There is housing. So creating job is core for the achievement of all practically development goals. I don't know of any example of prosperity where jobs have not been created in a country. For this, of course, we need private investments to finance the economic development. But private investment can only be attracted with the right kind of framework and conditions. This is where partnership come into play. In such partnership, public development banks can afford to take over part of investment risk and therewith bring down the risk for private investors. I'm sure that Karin Fingerstone is going to, Vice President of IFC, when she addresses our audience, will speak about that. Governments can finance technical assistance and therewith pave the way for successful market development. Foundations and for-profit companies play crucial roles in bringing different partners together. I find it encouraging to see so many interesting partnerships models on the program for today's session. And I look forward to debating with you the challenges and solutions in scaling up such investments partnerships. Well, with this remark, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ambassador Raymond Fuller, who is going to tell us what the view of the Swiss government and SECO is. Raymond, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jean-Daniel. Sehr geschätzte Damen und Herren, dear ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs. Also, on behalf of the Swiss government, I want to very warmly welcome you today to this very important event. In particular, also our guests from abroad, Karen Finkelstein and members of her team, as well as Mr. Ferreira from the IDB. It's a pleasure having you here. It's a good opportunity for you to engage with the Swiss community on sustainable and impact finance. This is a global business here in Switzerland. We have much to offer, and I'm very much sure that you can benefit from the discussions in the course of the day, as well as we can benefit also from your experiences here. Ladies and gentlemen, when last year Federal Councillor Doris Leuthard was addressing herself to you at the General Assembly of Swiss Sustainable Finance last June, she emphasized that 2015 was the year of commitment, 2016 the year of momentum, and 2017 and beyond are the years of paradigm shift and transformation at scale. Today's conference on inspiring investment partnerships to achieve global goals fits this outline very well. To reach the Sustainable Development Goals, as we know, an estimated annual investment gap of some $2.5 trillion would need to be closed. It's very obvious that the public resources, including official aid, will not cover this gap. Therefore, the notion of partnerships is crucial and is not by chance that the authors of the SDGs, they have introduced as a separate goal, SDG 17, the heading Partnerships for the Goals, partnerships as one of the SDGs 17. Now you may ask why I have been invited here today. As Mrs. Döbeli mentioned, I'm heading the department, the division in SECO in charge of part of the Swiss Official Development Assistance. Our work in partnership with the private sector is a very fundamental part of our work. As a matter of fact, it's part of our DNA. Partnership with the private sector, be it for-profit sector as well as for non-profit sector. Let me illustrate what we have been doing over the years with a few examples. Fairtrade Max Havelaar started as a partnership in 1992 at the initiative of Swiss NGOs with the startup contribution by SECO. It is now a self-sustaining and the Swiss population has become, as we know, the world champions in fair trade consumption. Another example, in 2003, a public-private partnership stood at the origin of what has become the Responsibility Global Microfinance Fund. In other words, a SECO startup contribution of 3 million, that was matched by private investments, resulted in a fund that has today a size of over 1 billion. SECO exited in 2007, and the company, also present today, which is a great pleasure, has very successfully developed, added, brought new products, and further increased its assets under management. Also, our hosts today, Swiss Sustainable Finance, benefited from a one-time catalytic contribution from SECO in 2014. Why did we do that? Because our mandate includes the mobilization of sustainable investments into our priority developing countries and emerging markets. Swiss sustainable finance is the gateway to the sustainable and impact investment community in Switzerland. And as a bottom-up, industry-based initiative, it supports the positioning of Switzerland as a sustainable financial sector as well. Jointly with UBS, we provided first loss capital to mobilize private funding for SMEs, the missing middle in developing countries, as we call it. This partnership is a topic of this afternoon breakout session, of one of those sessions. With the Climate Bonds Initiative, we are currently discussing a program with IFC to create a scalable green bond market for developing and emerging markets. The ultimate goal here is to work towards a unifying standard for green bonds. The topic will also be discussed in a breakout session this afternoon. Last example, we have launched an open call for proposals to support investments for development impact investing via the financing of technical assistance. In a competitive process, this call seeks innovative solutions to support job growth, for instance, that we donors do not necessarily have. It is by joining forces of the public and the private sector, each along its core competencies, of course, that we want to enhance impact. Let me turn to the lessons that we have taken so far from these partnerships. Allow me to make 2 points. First, while each partnership is necessary, they are in itself not enough. The private sector in developing economies will not flourish if local institutions and policies do not work, if infrastructure fails, if there is no sound budgeting, or if the local finance sector will not take the lead in financial intermediation, ideally in local currencies. Jean-Daniel Gerber has also made reference to this important aspect of the framework conditions. That is a note of caution when the discussion is all about mobilization and blending, i.e. the practice of mixing of public and private monies. This may only be the second or maybe even the third best solution. There is foremost a need to fix institutional and policy failures to provide systemic solutions and market standards. Aid will be necessary to cover gaps where the private sector does not and maybe sometimes should not go. However, and this is the second lesson that we have taken, these partnerships can show the way and let us do more by leveraging money and know-how. As shown in the examples that I have mentioned before, successful partnerships address critical gaps and can be scaled up or replicated to yield significant benefits beyond the original undertaking. Based on our experience, what is important to us when we enter a partnership? 3 points. A partnership needs to be built on and driven by common values and developmental objectives. Second, a partnership needs to align the public and private interests and to share risks appropriately. It needs to be fair and balanced and build on the core competencies of each partner, as I mentioned before. And the third point, aid or public support need to follow subsidiarity principles. It needs to be selective, additional, and time-bound. Time-boundedness or exit at some point is paramount whenever subsidies are involved. If the project at hand is potentially commercially viable, there is always a very thin line between market creation and market distortion. As we know, permanent subsidies are of no help to create a self-sustaining market. This is a very important insight that I'm sure we're all sharing, and to find exactly this right balance is the trick that we have to look at on a generic basis. We need to have discussions, as we are going to have them also in the course of today, but also in a very country-specific context as well, because this may very well differ from context to context. Ladies and gentlemen, our presence here today in Zurich testifies to our interest in investment partnerships for development. These partnerships are required, and they will help us to accelerate progress in this critical field, including towards the SDGs. Let us take this opportunity today to explore, to engage, and to learn from each other. With these remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I wish us a very stimulating day, according to the motto of today, in a truly inspiring way. Thank you very much.